Sam Modi, Steve Manera, thank you for your assistance in putting this together. Happy to have John Hanson and Mike Venuto on to tell us what's doing with Glassboro Camden Light Rail. But I think if you put the agenda up, I think I turn this over to Bill. And Bill, it's now your show.
All right. Thank you, Marlene. Hey, good morning, everybody. So just a couple of brief notes before we get started. We asked that everybody, if you could mute your microphone during the presentation, that would be helpful. And secondly, that there is going to be time for questions and answers at the end. So we ask you to use the raise your hand feature, and we will call on you so you could get a chance to talk with the presenters. So I'd like to introduce our speakers. They really don't need much of an introduction. John Hanson and Mike Venuto, they both presented before the council before, and we appreciate them coming back to talk to us again and give us an update. I've actually had the pleasure of working with both John and Mike over the years. John was on the board of DRPA, and he also served as the chief financial officer before becoming the CEO in 2014. And Mike Venuto has been with DRPA for many years, and he's done an excellent job in chief engineer role. So we appreciate John and Mike both joining us this morning. John, Mike.
Thanks, Bill, and good morning, everybody. It's good to be back with the Transportation Committee here at the Southern New Jersey Development Council. And I want to say that we are very grateful. I am very grateful for the support that we've received from Marlene and from this Southern New Jersey Development Council community for this important project. I'm going to throw you a little bit of a curve this morning, Bill. I'm going to let Mike Venuto say a few words, but I've asked Dr. Nicole Ockrock, who is a senior engineer with our staff, who is, along with Mike Howard, one of our engineering leads on the GCL project. And Nicole does a lot of presentations to crowds that are significantly less friendly than this. So we're going to let her take this one again this morning. So we're grateful to be here. We're grateful for the support. Good morning, everybody. And Mike, do you have anything that you want to say before we turn it over to Nicole?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, John. Thank you, Bill. Good morning, everyone. We're happy to obviously be here again with you. So the Southern New Jersey Development Council, Marlene, you've been a great supporter of this project for many, many years now. And like Bill said, John and I presented before this committee as we were going through the many stages of the project. So we thought it'd be great. We all recognize that this is going to be a transformative project here in Southern New Jersey. So we wanted just to provide a quick update of where we are. We started our preliminary engineering design back in October, and we thought it'd be a good time to update your committee on where we are and where we see ourselves in the next couple of years. So with that, thanks again for the opportunity, and I'll turn it over to Nicole to work us through the presentation.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Can everyone see my screen and hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to go over the project overview, what the GCL is, our purpose, and our timeline. And then I'll just go into some details about the system itself, the train type, the service, and the stations. And then we'll just end with questions and answers. This isn't a particularly long presentation, but hopefully it'll give you a nice overview of where we are. For those of you that don't know, the GCL is a proposed 18-mile passenger rail line through Glassboro and Camden in South Jersey, and it will restore passenger service along an existing rail line and connect 11 communities, making station stops in Glassboro, Pittman, Mantua, Deptford, Woodbury Heights, Woodbury, Westville, Gloucester City, and Camden. And the image on the right is our proposed route. So the purpose of the GCL is really to connect people to opportunity, to connect people to jobs, to medical treatment, to teachers in schools and other educational experiences, to connect people to friends and family, and to other fun opportunities and experiences such as museums, entertainment, and cultural institutions that the Philadelphia-Camden metropolitan region has to offer. The GCL will help support the growth of the region, the regional economy, by providing businesses and nonprofit organizations with new or easier access to thousands of workers, customers, clients, and patrons. And really, this is the heart of the GCL. So the GCL will become a vital link for South Jersey. It will provide another alternative to the personal vehicle and current bus routes, and will reduce highway congestion along routes 42, 55, and 676. The GCL improves links between people and activity centers throughout the corridor, including various employment opportunities and connections over to Center City, Philadelphia. The GCL will be maximizing an underutilized Conrail corridor, which used to be a passenger rail route back in the 70s. So there is space to restore the existing corridor, which will minimize overall impacts. And ultimately, the GCL supports both planned growth initiatives and will promote economic development in South Jersey. All right. So this is an overview of the GCL project timeline. It has been going on for many, many years. A feasibility study was completed in the early 2000s, followed by an alternatives analysis study in 2009. The environmental impact statement report was finalized in February of 2021, and it is publicly available on our website for those of you that are interested. So our next steps, as Mike and John mentioned, is preliminary engineering design, which we kicked off in October of 2022, and then followed by construction, and then eventually our rail service will start. All right, so the proposed train type for the GCL is a self-powered clean diesel electric vehicle, which means they are diesel powered with an onboard electrical generator to power the vehicle. The initial capacity is to have a 2-car train set that holds 300 passengers. However, our stations will be outfitted to accommodate 3-car train sets as the ridership demand increases. The GCL train will be ADA accessible with low floor light rail vehicles for ease of boarding, and then they can also operate within the corridor and at grade for that mixed use corridor design. The proposed GCL trains can get up to 65 miles per hour, but will average about 30 miles per hour to accommodate for station stops. And our proposed fleet is 18 vehicles. And, you know, I do want to touch base here. A lot of questions we get is about the electrification of the train cars. And traditional electric rail systems typically rely on third rail power or overhead catenary structures, which would require additional space beyond the existing Conrail right-of-way, which conflicts with our project goals of minimizing disruption to the communities and our environment. And as part of the preliminary engineering design tasks, they will be revisiting the vehicle type and any associated technologies, such as the potential for electric batteries, that will all be reviewed, and a final vehicle recommendation will be identified during preliminary engineering design. So much more to come in the next year or so on the vehicle selection and technologies. All right, so our train service is currently planned to operate between 5 a.m. and 12 a.m. 7 days a week, with 15-minute headways during peak, midday, and evening hours. We'll move to 30-minute headways after 9 p.m.-ish to accommodate for Conrail schedules. And we currently estimate 16,000 riders by 2040. This number came from our environmental impact statement ridership analysis, and these ridership analyses will also be updated as part of our preliminary engineering design. So the GCL has a great connection here in the greater Philadelphia Camden area, where once we get to Walter Rand, the GCL has connections to PATCO, New Jersey Transit bus, and then it will also take us over into Philadelphia, which has access to SEPTA, Market Frankfurt, Broad Street, Regional Rails, Amtrak, and the airport. So it'll really be a great connection for Southern New Jersey. So for our train stations, we have stations located every 1 to 2 miles along the 18-mile route. There are 14 stations total. 13 will be new, and 1 will be shared at Walter Rand Transportation Center in Camden, which has those connections to both PATCO and New Jersey Transit buses. All of our stations will be ADA accessible as well. So here are some renderings of the 2 stations. These, again, were utilized as part of the environmental impact statement. So we have 2 platform designs. The center platform with tracks on either side will be typical for stations on the southern half of the route. And then we've got the side platform where there'll be 1 adjacent track, which is typical for stations on the northern half of the route. These station designs will all be further developed during preliminary engineering design. So I just do want to talk about the route selection, since we are often talked about or asked about this. During the alternatives analysis study from 2009, there were 5 different GCL routes looked at. And so the route selected or presented today had the overwhelming recommendation and preference for the at-grade light rail system along the Conrail corridor. The route presented today has the lowest capital cost, lowest operating costs, and attracts the most new riders, all while utilizing existing rail infrastructure. And in addition, the GCL route selected will maximize the linkages between communities, universities, medical centers, and any other activities in the area, while encouraging the economic and transit-oriented development consistent with New Jersey's Smart Growth Initiative. All right, so next steps. The DRPA has partnered with New Jersey Transit and South Jersey Transportation Authority on the next steps moving forward for the GCL project. The project team will continue public outreach to the communities and organizations in the area to clarify the scope and purpose of the GCL, similar to what we're doing today. We are also in the beginning stages of the preliminary engineering design, which will take approximately 2.5 to 3 years. We have engaged a project management office as well, which will be under contract throughout design and construction. SJTA has secured an initial $200 million for the project, which will include the project management office, preliminary engineering design, right-of-way agreements, Conrail improvements, geotechnical surveys, and utility relocation. Construction will be facilitated via a design, build, operate, maintain contract for an estimated cost around $1.8 billion and a construction duration of approximately 3 years. Note that both the construction cost and construction schedule are being revisited during preliminary engineering design. So I anticipate we'll have new numbers once those deliverables come in. And as just highlighting our partnership with SJTA, New Jersey Transit, for this project. So thank you to the Southern New Jersey Development Council for your support throughout this project. And as I mentioned, we will be conducting more public outreach beginning in about March of this year. So our outreach team will keep you guys included on any event information. So you guys, can participate if you'd like, or just continue to show your support. So thank you very much. Yes, I see a hand raised.
Yeah, hi. Thank you very much for the presentation. It's very informative. You did mention that there was $200 million in funds allocated for part of the project. I didn't catch where the remainder of the funding is coming from.
That is a great question, John. We are still working on that. As part of preliminary engineering design, we have a whole team dedicated to funding and finding the right avenue for the project. And right now our plan is the DBOM, the design, build, operate, maintain contract structure. But there are some other financing schemes that we could include in that. So that's a big question that we are still working on.
Thank you, Nicole.
The team's also working on identifying any possible grant or federal funding as we're working through the project as well.
Yeah, my thought was, there's probably, maybe there's some way you can access some of the infrastructure bill funding.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's a great point. So as Mike and Nicole both said, we're looking at a number of different things. DRPA's role, just to clarify, is the project manager on behalf of the state of New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
We're building it for them. And it's also part of our job to help identify the funding, but our partners at the South Jersey Transportation Authority, at New Jersey Transit, and in the Department of Transportation within the state of New Jersey are all working with us on that, because again, it actually is a New Jersey state project.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Good morning, it's Anthony LaRosa from Colliers. A quick question. The location of the stations along the route, are they just locations of existing stations, or are they new locations, and how was it determined where they should be? Was it based upon spacing or other criteria?
Yeah, that's a great question. So as part of the EIS, and forgive me, I was not part of the EIS, so I might not have everything 100%, but the stations were identified depending on parking as well as proximity to the downtown areas of the communities that we're working in. So they're hoping for walk-up stations, and then there are some park and ride. So I think it was a combination of what's existing, the footprint of the community and where the space could be. But as part of the preliminary engineering design, we are going back and re-looking at each of the locations to firm up the exact location. But everything, if we change it, has to be updated in the environmental impact statement. So it's probably not changing too much from the locations.
Understood. Thank you.
And Anthony, a few of those towns along the way, like Pittman, Sewell, Woodbury, since it was an existing corridor, still have some of those older stations there. So we're going to be in that same proximity. But there are other areas, as Nicole said, where we're going to acquire new land and where it'll fit for the park and rides and things like that.
Understood.
But generally, the approach of this whole project has been to minimize disruption to existing businesses, residences, and even public areas. That's why we're going through the Conrail right of way. And so every effort has been made to maximize the usage and to put it in places where the community has the greatest access, but while using areas that are either underutilized or have been previously dedicated to this type of a project.
Understood. Curious too, as far as the ride time from Glassboro, the end of the line, all the way into Philly, almost an hour. Were there any studies done as far as what the expectation may be of the riders, what they're looking for a commute like that, versus, jumping in a car and making it in like a half an hour or so, 40 minutes?
So we did look at, the most direct route. That was part of the planning. I think there are a couple of issues related to this line. it's designed to allow this type of transportation without a car. You know, we're talking about walkable communities. So part of this idea is that you don't need a car to get into Philadelphia. Some people don't have them because they can't afford them. There are many people who don't want cars at this point. So that is part of the reason. In addition, there's going to be a trade-off between time and expense. The time certainly would be a little longer, assuming no traffic. The time or anyway, right? But you've still got to put your car somewhere when you get there. And even now with reduced business activity in the city, it's still pretty expensive to park your car over there. So there is a little bit of a trade-off with respect to being able to drive a car if you have one available, if that's how you choose to go, assuming again that there's no traffic. That's not always the case. But the trade-off becomes cost and also, you know, the impact on the environment if you're environmentally conscious.
Sure, and being somebody who commutes into the city quite a bit, I'll tell you that the parking rates aren't going down. So they're really comfortable.
We don't go that often. We don't have to go that often. You know, we're here in Camden, but it wasn't too long ago, I was over for a meeting and it always surprises me when I look at the cost to park.
I'll also add that when we get closer to, you know, like having ridership, the coordination between both the River Line and PATCO with the schedules will certainly be reviewed and optimized such that, you know, you're not waiting for 15 minutes at Walter Rand for a connection point.
Sure.
You know, the whole point is interagency coordination here.
Gotcha. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. Any other questions for Nicole or anyone? Okay, if not, thank you very much, Nicole. Thanks, John, Mike. Appreciate you joining. Appreciate the update. And I appreciate you taking time out of your day. Marlene, I'll turn this back to you. I think you had a couple other things on your agenda to go over. You're on mute, Marlene.
Okay, thank you. Well, as much as I know about the Glassboro-Camden line, I now know a whole lot more. That was really great, Nicole. Thank you very much. Mike, John, thank you. I happen to live in Glassboro, so I hear a lot more about the project than maybe some who are in other counties. I guess if I had to ask a question, which I should have, is of those few communities, and there are only, I think, 3 or 2 or 3, what's their main objection to this form of transportation?
So, look, what I would say to you is, and this is not the voiced objection, but this is what I believe the objection to be. As people, our psychology, we are resistant to change. It's just that simple. We are resistant to change. I think it has to do with the way we've evolved, right? That even if things are bad, as long as you're surviving, you don't want to change. And so the idea of a change inspires fear in some people, and they come up with reasons, but even the reasons, when we talk about the reasons, they just will move from one to the next. And I think that there's just a real fear, and I'm not minimizing the fear, that something is going to happen that is going to disrupt their quality of life. And we're going to make sure that is not going to happen. But people will bring up the number of trains that are going to be going through the right of way. One of the consistent questions that we get asked is about the cost of quiet. I mean, this question continually comes up about the cost of quiet zones and the cost of any liability insurance, and we're bearing all the costs, all the maintenance. And, we believe that any liability for the municipality would be non-existent or at most very minimal, but we can't give them that legal opinion. They got to get that from their own risk management people. But that's what our review, our analysis of our risk management professionals and attorneys tell us. There's a lot of talk about the using the clean diesel technology from some of the people who oppose. And the fact is this, that this technology as it exists right now that we're talking about is often cleaner than electric powered vehicles. It depends upon how the electricity is created, right? And when you look at one of our trains, the trains that's being proposed, it's got a clean diesel generator on board. So the power plant's right on board, right, for these trains. And the environmental impact of the generation of the electricity in battery operated cars, which the technology is not advanced enough yet for these vehicles, or even in third rail or overhead catenary, depending upon how that electricity is generated depends on what the overall impact is, but you don't see that because the power is not being generated right at the site with a battery, with a third rail, with a catenary, the way it is with these cars. And we're hopeful, as Nicole said, that the technology is going to advance for battery cars that will be suitable for us, and that the processes for generating the power that goes into those batteries is going to be clean enough that it makes it an even better option than the really good option of clean diesel already.
Well, thank you. Again, that helps me because there are occasions that I would like to respond to a neighbor's concern, and that helps a lot. So thank you again. And I think I've said many a time, and we'll say collectively as a committee, whatever outreach that you're doing that we can participate with, we're happy to do it. We really are believers of public transportation, particularly this type. So, I know you already counted us in, but count us in again.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. We really appreciate you emphasizing it, and it's important to us. That's why we were really happy to come here today.
Yeah, great, thank you. So back to the agenda. This is sort of a 2023, let's figure out what we're doing meeting. I don't want to exclude the co-chairs in this discussion, but really what we're trying to get from the committee is an idea of what you'd like to see going forward. The only one event that we have not locked in yet in terms of a date, but traditionally we host the Department of Transportation Commissioner usually in July, sometimes August, depending on her schedule. So that's a definite. Everybody loves it, and you know how great she is when she comes and visits with us.